President Lowry, leaders, delegates, I very much regret not being able to be with you. This is an important event for you, for the Nordic countries, indeed for Europe and the world. We are in a very bleak economic time, still, despite 7 years now since we saw the onset and the impact of the crisis on working people. We know that this year is as vulnerable for the global economy as 2008. But nevertheless, strong unions are making a difference. We know that your work in the context of the humanitarian crisis of the refugee numbers is remarkable. Your fight against racism and indeed your service, free service for refugees, is simply an inspiration to other unions, to other nations. We do have a big fight on our hands. Democracy, peace, freedom, these things are fundamental. And if the world is xenophobic and frightened and rejects our brothers and sisters fleeing from economic desperation or conflict, then we are poorer for it. So I applaud your leadership. I thank you for your solidarity on these questions. And I thank you for your contribution to the global effort. The ITUC is very focused. We have 3 front lines. One is eliminating slavery. The other is to end corporate greed by changing the behaviour of multinationals in our supply chains. And of course, climate justice. On slavery, you have been an amazing support in our Qatar campaign. And we are very, very grateful. We're still fighting the battle for those 1.5 million workers enslaved in Qatar, but we are winning the global architecture. We are on the cusp, we think, of having a more mega sporting centre, a rights centre, that actually will vet bids by companies, by countries, by host cities and their countries, to see that law and practice around human rights, around labour rights, is in fact respected. And we hope the centre will work with successful country bids to monitor supply chains. So the campaign continues, but we are grateful for your solidarity. Then, of course, when we look at the question of supply chains, again, we know the global workforce is very bleak. 60% of workers are in the formal economy, but more than 50% of those have insecure or precarious work, are often low paid, and often in unsafe working environments. And then there are the 40% of our brothers and sisters in the informal economy, what I call the sector of desperation, where there are no rights, no social protection, no minimum wages, no collective bargaining, and of course, no rule of law. We have, again, made such an issue of this to date that there is a global debate going on. The G7 last year actually said it was a priority, that core labour standards, labour rights in supply chains were absolutely to be respected. We see the ILO this year with its discussion in just 3 weeks' time, and our briefing paper will be available next week. In fact, I will send to all of you the lobby document to make sure that we are talking to governments about our demand for a convention, for the packaging of existing standards and an evaluation of what else we need to manage supply chains, so rights, minimum living wages, collective bargaining, the rule of law, these things are respected. And we want to see countries mandate for due diligence, because that's the commitment that companies make when they respect the Ruggie guidelines. But it's all too slow. If governments take a leaf out of the French example and look to legislate due diligence, then that mandates company behaviour and allows us to move this much faster along. So your help in these matters is critical, and of course we'll continue to expose the plight of the hidden workforce, up to 94% of workers in supply chains who are in fact invisible because CEOs of multinationals don't take responsibility for their supply chains beyond perhaps the first tier or two. Then we have climate justice. You know our position. There are no jobs on a dead planet, but we will look after all workers. No one should be left behind. And just as we are proud of our climate activists and we're organising the renewable energy workers, we need a just transition to see that the workers in fossil fuels are respected and that the big companies make the transition from dependence on fossil fuels through to renewable energy. Our energy future must be secure, it must have good jobs, and workers in their communities who brought us the prosperity of today must be looked after. Of course, we will never give up our fight for equality for women. And just as we're fighting for jobs in infrastructure, we're also now advocating to the G20, to the UN, for investment in care. It's the care economy, aged care, health care, childcare and education, the essential supports that enable women to actually participate in the economy, but also provide jobs, good jobs in the care sectors. We know that women want to be counted in to the economy, they want to be counted into our unions, and of course we want to be counted into leadership everywhere. But organising, in addition to our economic policies, our advocacy around our front lines, the interaction with key global actors and institutions, we know that organising is the base of union growth, of the power of working people, of our influence on national and international politics. So we support all of your efforts. I look forward to the outcomes of this conference so that we can look to making sure that we are shaping a united future, and I'm sure your decisions will inform us of some of those directions and what we need to think about. But above all, we need to grow the union movement. I thank you. I urge you to look carefully at both national and international solidarity around organising, and I look forward to discussions in the future. Solidarity.